So when our leaders in both chambers say, as a commitment, we will fight and we will stop President Obama's illegal amnesty, I take them at their word, but I am confident the American people will hold them to their word.
The federal government is funded for the time being. Lawmakers are heading home to once again seek to explain themselves to the people who gave them a free pass to the Beltway. And nothing is right with the world as we bear down on the new Congress next month, because one man has tossed a Texas-sized monkey wrench into all the good tidings. All right, our guest is the founder of Tea Party Nation, one of the largest Tea Party groups in the country, and his hard-hitting articles are read on sites such as the Washington Times. It's a pleasure to welcome Judson Phillips into MidPoint. Judson, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Hey, Ed, thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure. Did Ted Cruz simply just go too far this time and basically lift his leg on all of his peers and create a real problem that he's going to regret?
No, actually, I would reverse the analogy a bit. It's the Republican establishment that, to use your words, lifted their legs on the base. Think about it. For what little the Republicans ran on this past year, one of the things was, oh, we're going to stand up against Barack Obama and his amnesty. Well, what's the first thing they do when they get back to Washington? They haul up John Boehner's freshly laundered white flag of surrender and give up. And Ted Cruz is the one guy out there. Well, he's not the only one. Mike Lee's standing with him, Jeff Sessions, there's a couple others. But these are the guys who are standing up for the principles that the Republicans at least allegedly believe. Keyword there being allegedly.
All right, now you brought up the name of John Boehner, so let's get right to it then. In your opinion and that of other members of the Tea Party, is John Boehner the guy who is to blame for all the current ills?
He certainly bears a large share of the blame. You know, for 4 years, let's rewind back to 2009. The Republican Party was on the endangered species list. I mean, seriously, the Democrats had a supermajority. The Tea Party helped get John Boehner into the speakership. And we've only asked for one thing in return: stand up and fight on a few things. But he wouldn't fight on Obamacare. Now he won't fight on amnesty. He's not going to fight on any other issue. So, you know, I'm almost tempted to paraphrase the quote from Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War in his famous letter to General McClellan. You know, John, if you're not using your majority, can we borrow it for a little while?
But let's get to this point, Judson. Is it not fair to say that maybe it's strategic? I understand where you're coming from here and where a lot of the Tea Partyists are, but maybe what he is doing and others is strategic. Get it to a certain point, take things on when you're more powerful, wait until 2015 when you have that full, complete, and total majority to go after things. How about that?
Well, you're right. It is strategic, but not in the way you think. This is the end game of the great Republican Civil War that has been going on for years now. And this is the victory of the Chamber of Commerce wing of the Republican Party. So in a lot of ways, this is very strategic. John Boehner and a lot of the Washington establishment are telling the base, people like me, I've been a Republican since I was 13 years old in 1972, putting out yard signs for Richard Nixon. And they're telling us, you know, go pound sand. We don't care what you think. It's very, very strategic and very, very calculated on their part. And, you know, people like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, the base resonates with them, or they resonate with the base because they're willing to stand up and fight. They're willing to stand for what they say they believe. And in the end, I think in 2015, instead of a huge Republican majority, I think you're going to see the GOP shattered in 2015. And we might see the GOP in 2016 go the way of the Whig Party in the 1850s.
But Judson, what's to gain here? I think that's always the end result. What's the end game here if John Boehner and others are basically turning their back and a complete betrayal then on the people who voted them in? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, right now we've got John Boehner, who's basically helping to carry the water for Barack Obama.
But why would he do that? Why would he do that when he has been so opposed to the president in the past, and the election, the recent midterm, sent the clear message of what Republicans want? What's to gain?
You know, I wish I knew the answer to that question. Boehner has absolutely refused to stand up on any issue. For example, Obamacare, he kept telling us, oh, we'll fight at the right time. Wait and fight at the right time. And then what did he say this past summer? Well, you know, we can't repeal Obamacare anymore. It's too late. Well, you know, please, would you stand up and fight for something? And if
but what's he supposed to do then, Judson? What is he supposed to do when every legal expert who looks at the Obamacare edict right now and the executive action and says, this is going forward, you can't stop the train? What's he supposed to do?
Start by putting some pressure on Obama. Start defunding parts of the government and saying, look, you want you want the government funded? Fine. We're going to compromise on certain issues here. And by the way, Compromise is not a dirty word. The Democrats do it all the time, but they know how to do it. Republicans think compromise means surrender. And when compromise is your goal, which is always the Republican goal, surrender is your first option. But, John Boehner needs to think strategically and be willing to take on a fight or two, which he is not willing to do.
Are you then in agreement with some people, and I've seen this in the last 24 hours, big names who've said, quite frankly, we're ready to leave the GOP. You've betrayed us. We're out of here. Well, wait a minute now. First of all, if you're a Republican, where are you going to go if you're going to leave the GOP? What's going to happen here? We're talking about a split. People would leave. The Republican Party would be damaged. And then guess what? Come 2016, it's very likely the left would then take over while the Republicans are fighting, and you lose again.
Well, I suspect the very same thing was said in the 1850s when the Whig Party disintegrated. But here's the thing. If the Republican Party is not going to stand up against Obama, then please tell me what good they serve. Why do we go out and carry yard signs and man phone banks and make contributions and do the heavy lifting of an election to send a message to Washington if the Republicans will not stand up to Obama?
Then what are you going to do about it? There we go. A minute and a half left here. What are you going to do about it? And what can you do, honestly, when you already have had an election and we're locked in for 2 years?
You're right. We are locked into 2 years. And that gives us plenty of time to prepare. What we need to do is start challenging a lot of these incumbents who have gone off the reservation. I talked about Tennessee Congressman Diane Black in a column yesterday in the Washington Times. There's a local group that's going to make sure that she gets primary. If Jeb Bush today said he's going to run for president, that thrills me about like sliding down a 40-foot razor blade into a bucket of alcohol. But if Bush is going to be the nominee, hey, there's a lot of us in the base that can go to a third party. We can look at an alternative.
So are you saying then if Jeb Bush, who basically all he said today was he would consider, there was no real announcement here whatsoever, 20 seconds left, are you saying that if Jeb Bush decides to run, there's no way that the Tea Party would ever back him? Nobody in the Tea Party would dare to get behind Jeb Bush.
Absolutely. The Tea Party will not support Jeb Bush. Conservatives will not support Jeb Bush. Our mantra, no more Bushes.
Even if he is the nominee. He gets in, he's the nominee. Who would you vote for then?
Hey, we'd have to see who else is running. But, I don't see much difference between Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. There just isn't that much difference. We want a conservative. We want Ted Cruz or Scott Walker or somebody. We've done it the way the establishment has wanted to do it, and we've had such stellar successes as President Romney, President McCain, President Dole.
We are all out of time, unfortunately, Judson. I got to stop you there. Thank you so much. A very Merry Christmas. We'll talk again soon, and MidPoint will continue.